There are moments in history when a city is not born from need, but from belief. Before the first stone is laid, before streets are named or maps are drawn, someone imagines a future so perfect that it feels inevitable. In that moment, a city exists not as brick or wood, but as an idea, fragile, ambitious, and often dangerous. America was built on such ideas. Not slowly, not cautiously, but boldly, sometimes recklessly. Long before skyscrapers pierced the sky and highways stitched the continent together, the United States became the world's greatest laboratory for planned cities. These were not accidents of growth. They were deliberate experiments, controlled environments, social blueprints, moral visions carved into streets and neighborhoods. Some were meant to save humanity, some were meant to control it, and some, quietly, did both. This is the story of those cities, not as they appear on postcards or textbooks, but as they truly were. Utopian dreams echoing through time, shaping modern America in ways most people never realize. To understand this story, we must return to a time before the United States even existed. A continent of empty promises. In the late 1700s, the land that would become America was vast, uneven, and largely unmapped in any meaningful sense. European cities had grown organically over centuries. Crooked streets, layered histories, chaos piled upon chaos. But this new continent offered something unprecedented: space without memory. To many Enlightenment thinkers, this was irresistible. Here was a chance to do what Europe never could: start over. To design cities free from medieval clutter, religious tyranny, inherited class systems, and ancient mistakes. America could be rational, orderly, moral. Cities, they believed, could shape human behavior. This was not a fringe idea. It was mainstream intellectual thought. Philosophers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that environment molded character. Change the environment, and you could change the person. In America, these ideas found fertile ground. If people could be shaped, then cities could become tools. The first great experiment: order as power. When the American Revolution ended, the new nation faced a symbolic problem. Where would power live? No existing city felt neutral enough. Boston was too revolutionary, Philadelphia too commercial, New York too chaotic. Each carried baggage from the colonial past. So the founders did something radical. They decided to build a capital from scratch. This was not just about geography. It was ideology made concrete. The city that would become Washington, D.C. was designed to embody Enlightenment values: reason, symmetry, authority, and permanence. Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, a French-born engineer with grand visions, was chosen to design it. L'Enfant did not think like a builder. He thought like a philosopher. Broad avenues cut through rigid grids, grand vistas connected monuments of power. The city itself would teach citizens who ruled and why. Every street was intentional, every axis symbolic. The capital sat elevated, not merely physically, but morally. The White House faced outward, projecting authority. The distance between institutions was measured not just in feet, but in meaning. This was not a city for people first. It was a city for ideas. But even in its earliest days, Washington revealed a dangerous truth about planned cities. Reality rarely obeys design. The city struggled. Muddy streets, empty lots, disease. For decades, it felt unfinished, artificial, almost hollow. Yet the idea endured. And that idea, that cities could be engineered to reflect ideals, would spread like wildfire. Utopia moves west. As America expanded westward, the dream of the planned city followed. But now the motive was not just governance, it was salvation. The 19th century was an age of upheaval. Industrialization was transforming society faster than anyone could control. Factories swallowed cities. Workers lived in squalor. Crime rose. Class conflict simmered. To many, reformers' traditional cities were failing, so they imagined alternatives. Utopian communities sprang up across the country. Small, carefully planned settlements built around shared values. Some were religious, others socialist. Some obsessed with morality, others with efficiency. They believed that if people lived in the right environment, harmony would follow naturally. One of the most influential figures in this movement was Robert Owen, a Welsh industrialist who believed that character was shaped entirely by surroundings. In 1825, he attempted to build a perfect society in New Harmony, Indiana. The town was meticulously planned. Education was central. Equality was promised. Private property was discouraged. It failed spectacularly. Infighting, lack of structure, and human ego dismantled the dream within years. But failure did not discourage Americans. It inspired them. The industrialists' utopia. By the late 1800s, a new kind of planner emerged. Not philosophers, not reformers, but industrialists. Factories needed workers, workers needed housing, and uncontrolled cities bred rest. So companies began building entire towns. The most famous was Pullman, Illinois. George Pullman, creator of the luxury railroad sleeping car, envisioned a model industrial town, clean, orderly, moral. Workers lived in company-owned homes. Alcohol was banned. Public spaces were manicured. Everything was designed for efficiency and respectability. From the outside, Pullman looked like paradise. From the inside, it was control. Rents were deducted from wages. Surveillance was subtle but constant. When economic downturn hit and wages were cut, but rents were not, resentment exploded. In 1894, the Pullman strike paralyzed railroads across the nation. Federal troops were sent in. People died. The lesson was brutal and clear. A planned city could appear humane while quietly stripping its residents of power. This pattern would repeat, again and again. Blueprints of belonging and exclusion. As the 20th century dawned, planned cities evolved. No longer isolated experiments, they became instruments of national policy. Zoning laws emerged, promising order and health, while often enforcing segregation. Urban planners spoke of efficiency, while redlining quietly reshaped racial and economic boundaries. One of the most influential planned communities was Levittown. Built after World War II, Levittown was designed to solve a housing crisis for returning veterans. Rows of identical homes, affordable prices, suburban calm. It was efficient, revolutionary, transformative. It also came with a clause. Homes were sold only to white families. This was not accidental. It was design. Planned cities, once imagined as tools for equality, had become mechanisms of exclusion, shaping not just neighborhoods, but generational wealth. And yet, millions embraced them because they worked, at least for some. The quiet power of design. By mid-century, Americans rarely questioned the shape of their cities. Suburbs spread, highways cut through neighborhoods, downtowns hollowed out. These were not organic changes. They were planned. Decisions made in offices, backed by studies, justified by progress. The utopian dream had not disappeared. It had simply become invisible. Cities no longer promised perfection. They promised convenience. But beneath that promise lay the same belief that started it all, that by shaping space, you could shape society. And the echoes of those early dreams still surround us, in the grid of streets, in the distance between homes, in who lives where and who does not. This is only the beginning of that story, because some planned cities did not fail. They succeeded beyond imagination, and their influence reaches into every corner of modern America.